Well, good afternoon, Aristo.
Good morning, Ron. It's good to see you once again.
As we were chatting just a few minutes ago, I'm going to just give you a green light and let you go wherever you choose to go. And as I said, if there's something comes up for me to interject, I will do so. And other than that, take it away.
Okay. Your videos have an alternating themology between personal stuff, the sexuality and all of this, and the collective stuff. Now, most people, I gather, are interested in the collective stuff. My own discussion last time was on playfulness. However, some people, I think they misinterpret this, as childlike frivolity or happy-go-lucky, whatever. I meant playing with something that doesn't make sense to you. I meant if something, I agree with childlike playfulness and all of that, but in this case, when you have certain things that don't click rationally, like occult possibilities, people talk about alternate dimensions, timelines, the theory of numbers, the significance of synchronicity, all of these things, we try to say, well, let's find an explanation. Why is this happening? How can this work? What's behind it? And in doing so, we can end up either falling for misinformation or making up stories in order to box in what's going on. The whole imperative in everything, in my opinion, in personal situations and collective situations and transpersonal situations, which isn't even a category for most people, just a religious something, but to actually dissolve the boundaries between them and let ourselves actually feel what the hell is going on. Because we will never, in my opinion, things have been set up in this, as you called it, a chess game, cosmic, personal, whatever. It seems like a chess game, and it seems like it's stacked against us, or that it's been prepared in such a way that we cannot rationalize it. This is because, in my opinion, mankind has developed, it's one of the reasons basically, but if you want a reason, mankind has developed their discerning analytic function, their willpower, in order to be able to transcend their immediate environment, their natural conditions, and create a new environment. To create civilization, for example, to create arts and sciences and all of that, in order to overcome the limitations of the natural situation. So they take it up to a certain point, and now they have to bring the rest up to snuff and synthesize it with all the rest, with the analytical, the rational, the conceptual. The thing is that if you don't have the intuitive along with the rational and conceptual, you can easily be fooled. A false reality can be created, perfectly rational, perfectly structured, and it will. What's going on today can easily happen, as we can see, and most people can think easily that it's not the case. So we are in a situation where we're wondering, what can we do? But often, exactly, often this what can we do, there's the rational part, and then there's the trans-rational part. There's the part basically, well, maybe solutions are there, but they just don't make sense to us. Even if somebody said, well, this is a solution, we would automatically reject it because we are stuck in a certain box that says solutions can only go so far. These can only be solutions. And then we try to transcend that box while not really transcending it. Basically by, creating a copy of the box and shifting it over, or compartmentalizing the box into conservative boxing and then more liberal boxing. And so you can say, well, let me put it this way. We have a political situation, we have factions, we have hierarchies and all of this. So then we project this idea onto the cosmos, that there are factions, that there are hierarchies, that there are groups playing chess, and that somehow this is a creator, that's a creator. It's like, well, when I look at nature, I don't see factions and hierarchies. I see an organic dynamic, and that human beings are the ones who are trying to impose matrices. So if these are some extraterrestrial whatever's behind, the social situation, which archetypally is something I agree with, archetypally speaking, whatever the case may be, then these are another projection of another matrix. They're not the natural evolutionary dynamic that we see in our own biology, in our own intuitive spirituality. You know, our intuitive spirituality is not about magical occult schools or religious dogmas or priests or this or that. It's organic and it's natural. And right now I got people arguing behind me, so bear with me, please. Anyways, one of the things I wanted to say is that this whole playfulness attitude is that do not evaluate prematurely, what people call do not judge. So we can get into a situation and extend the limits to where we're a little bit uncomfortable. For example, with some new age information, you hear about timelines. Now, timelines don't have to be, it's something that can be organic. You hear about the collective consciousness versus the individual consciousness. We know that in order to change things, the collective consciousness needs to change, that we are all connected in some way, and that somehow the individual consciousness affects the collective consciousness. This is what your friend the ambassador has been saying about your personal life. You're affecting the collective consciousness. You're also establishing a mindset because these people observe humanity as if they are apart from humanity. Nobles have done this forever. And a lot of them who don't want the world to blow up, but don't want to abandon their security of hierarchies and structures, can say, well, look, human beings, they're actually getting it. You know, the thing is, a lot of these people don't understand that they're also human beings. If we're going to get it, they're going to get it. You know, there's no, well, I'm standing apart from you and you're over there. So we're the judges or our higher selves are your judges because we're your creators. When you look at things from a temporal dynamic, we can easily be the creators of those who claim to have created us because time is not linear. This is one of those things that's very difficult to understand. I don't expect anybody to understand it, but you can feel that causality itself is not linear. If the collective has a certain potential, I as an individual can emphasize that potential within myself and bring it to the attention of the collective. You know, it's a chicken or the egg scenario. Where is it coming from? Who cares? This whole thing of I am your creator, thus I have some kind of say in what's going to happen. And then we take this into God. Well, God has given us free will because he says, well, just because I'm your creator, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're completely free. That's the only way this can be meaningful. And so people often even talk about love, but they don't understand what it really means, that the creators of all of these ETs, all of these nobles, all of these whatevers, as well as ours, have placed us in this arena to work something out, which is far more important than any of their schemes and fears, and which is also at a God level dynamic of importance. This is a kind of alchemy, in my opinion, that's working out at all of these levels. Within us individually, in our relationships, collectively, and through all these various compartments of definitions, of hierarchies, of this, that, or the other. So the thing is, people will not readily be honest because they don't know what the truth is, for one.
That's my dilemma. I mean, I have so many people giving me ideas and private emails of people warning me or admonishing me to be careful or whatever, and you know, I'm trying to filter all this stuff, and it's happening on the two levels with two amazing teachers in my world, my lady friend and the ambassador, both of whom showed up about the same time in my world, and both of them have pretty much daily contact with me. So it's interesting dynamics that I'm filtering.
And it goes back to what I've been saying, because everything that they're telling you, not just the two people, but I'm talking about the people who are saying be careful and all of this. This is a conceptual situation, a conceptual communication, because they have their own fears. They're interpreting the situation in a way that they're familiar with through the various, media representations. I mean, we all watch movies and we all hear stories about insiders and this guy's been killed and that person's in danger and this other whatever. type of situation. But at the same time, if there is a state where can I navigate my reality in a way they can't get me, and it doesn't matter, and without confronting them, can I slip through their cracks and still make a difference? And I say yes, because the only weapon, and I've been saying this many, many times, the resource that we have that they do not have is moving with feeling. If we use our intuitive feeling, not our calculating intuition, the rationalist establishment defines intuition as a kind of subliminal calculating ability. So again, we're in a sense defined as a computer. But a computer, you see, is made of zeros and ones. The software, the mind of the computer, and the 0 and the 1 are arbitrary. They're basically levels of voltage. They have no intrinsic meaning. And thus the computer has no consciousness. It doesn't matter how elaborate you make it. If the very 0 and 1 that makes up the essence of its consciousness or information pattern has no intrinsic meaning or being, then the computer itself cannot, because you can't build something from nothing. Consciousness exists not because of complex interactions of dead things. Consciousness is there in everything. It's inherent in the very space-time fabric. It's, the very essence of reality. It expresses forms and forms of expression through the way complexity and interactions and feedback. Feedback cannot make sense if there's nothing to feed back. So if you're just conscious looking out, you may not even be aware that you're conscious. It's just maybe because you have no references. But if you have a reflection, then you can have a relationship, you can have a self-reflection. This is what meditation does. Meditation is self-reflection, immersing yourself in your own sense of consciousness and building that feedback loop, and that makes wonderful changes in your nervous system and stimulates your DNA because you're touching the foundation of what your being is all about. If they say that reality is digitized, the scientists, it's an information field, and it's like digital information, and so it's a virtual reality. Well, virtual realities are virtual because they're made of zeros and ones that are basically arbitrary. A living reality is not virtual because its fundamental information basics, yin and yang, the 0 and the 1 of polarized manifestation of formation, are alive, they are aware, they're conscious in different ways. Yin is receptively conscious and feeling oriented. Yang is projectively conscious and intentionally, blissfully, illuminatingly oriented. And these things connect. This is one of the esoteric theories, for example. But the point is, all of us have this foundation. All of us, as you have said and mystics say, all of us have the divine within the basis of our nature. So if you start your computer from a divine basics, of course it's going to develop a soul and consciousness and whatever. But when somebody who is a creator rejects the divine and rejects the divine principle by rejecting their own heart's empathy, interconnectedness, they can only create dead things. So any bastard out there, whether he's an ET or a noble or whatever, that claims to be my creator, had better be divinely oriented, had better be aware of the basis of their divine nature, of the interconnection between us. They better be beyond any Jesus Christ scenario that we know historically, because otherwise, if they're just another scientific Illuminati type, then they're lying, because all they're creating is a dead husk, an animated corpse. So the whole thing...
Yeah, that's called corporations.
Corporations. Corpse makers can only make corporations. In the old days, they called it necromancy. So a necromancer can only create a corporation. They can only incorporate. They can only program corpses. So they're trying to convince us that we are corpses. This is the collective state. We have called it zombification. We are objectified. We are exploited. Slavery is basically puppet mastering human beings. And exploitation is the same thing. We are treated as commodities. We are encouraged to market ourselves, to treat ourselves as commodities. All of these things make us compatible to be incorporated into the matrix, which is a coffin, which is a sarcophagus. A sarcophagus is a tomb that eats flesh. They used to put, dead people in there, and they would rot, and then the bones would remain, and they'd remove the bones and put them in ossuaries. But this is what the matrix is designed to be. And the symbol of death is bones, skull and bones, crossbones. And the Egyptians used the bones in order to vibrate and connect with the souls of the departed in order to retain those souls and use them and enslave them on the pretense that they would be, for example, the soul of a pharaoh or the astral body of a pharaoh could be summoned by a mummified body, because the mummified body is crystallized DNA and creates an inherent connection with the energy that passes on and thus retains it. And thus the next pharaoh can actually be possessed by the previous one. And their DNA can be, because they're also a relative, can be modified, and thus they maintain a continuity of the essence that retains the structure of the country and everything, and the hierarchy of the priesthood, all the same. So all of these things are coming together, but the bottom line is we're dealing with necromancers, with people who only know how to create dead things out of dead things, because they deny the true life of themselves. And this is what they're resonating into the collective and happening. Now, can we change this? Yes, we can. We can change this, but it's going to take some time. Many things can happen in the interim before the collective reaches a critical mass. But know this, in my opinion, when the collective reaches a critical mass, things will happen naturally. There's not going to be bloody revolutions or this, that, or the other. Until the collective reaches critical mass, there may be ups and downs, and there probably will be, because there will be friction, a tribulation, if you will, but one that can, in my opinion, is not going to be ultimately destructive, as these fearful boogeyman prophecies try to tell us. But the thing is that there are very few things an individual can do, esoterically speaking, very simplified. One is to ground. Feel the center of the earth. Many people say this, and people tend to take it for granted, but the divine lover that you felt, for example, can easily be seen in another person, right? It can easily be seen in the mirror. But the best place to see it right now, if you want to establish a firm manifest probability, is the core of the planet itself. And the divine lover at the core of the planet emanates into all the life forms of the planet. And you can recognize the planet as an entity. It's alive. I mean, and this is, in my opinion, it should be normalized thinking. I mean, we should get used to saying that this is a reasonable assumption. It's not even an assumption, it's a fact. Like the air we breathe and the water we drink. This planet is a living being, just like my dog is a living being, and the mountain is a living being, and any kind of biospheric system is alive. The forest is a living being. And so you can feel this, and you can feel that presence, and the planet will acknowledge you. You can feel that acknowledgement. This is something I believe people should, it will help people a lot to not only to wrap their heads around it, but to be able to open up until they feel the divine lover, because then you have a grounded manifest. You see, our planet is an avatar of planets. It's one of the few planets, and when we look out in the cosmos, and we don't see any planets with life, and the ones that are said to have life have problems. This grays, this, that, and the other. You have gas giants, and there the life forms are plasmic and more astrally oriented. But a planet like ours, with the paradise potential of our planet, and the deep goddess connection of this planet, is very rare at this point, in my opinion, in the cosmos. And that's why we have all these issues here. They are issues of desire, unfulfilled desire, issues of how desire can be free. If they exist here, they exist everywhere. So this planet is like a female Jesus Christ of planets, as far as I'm concerned, a planetary avatar. And thus the sun has an avatar potential. And thus the planet can heal us in a way other planets could not. These idiots, they want to go out and explore other planets. They're fools, because this is the key. Once you realize yourself here, then you can go and explore other planets, and you probably won't need space travel to do so. But the thing is that, and the moon has a role to play in all of these things. Once you get into that zone, you can open up to the stars, and the planet will tell you what's going on with the ETs. Because in ancient civilizations, the word God, for the Mesopotamians, for example, it was Igigi. That was one of the words for the gods. And Igigi means the eyes of heaven, and the eyes of heaven are the stars. The very stars were gods to these people. If you open up to the vibration of stars, you can feel individual dispositions all across the stellar field. You can feel, and they connected certain stars together to create constellations and say this is a stellar collective as it impacts the planet. From another planet's perspective, it's a different angle, but from our planet, we have a stellar collective talking to us. Thus, the zodiac for the ancients was a living thing. Just as you connect with the planet, you can connect with it. This is our surrounding immediate reality. These are the basics of being human, and ancient peoples knew this. We are pushed to forget it, to watch TV, to do all these things to distract ourselves. Trees, the sky, the earth, all of it. Once you connect with this, probabilities will begin shifting, so you will find sources of food that are cleaner, even in the midst of the poison. You will find sources of water that are cleaner. You will be able to charge your water because you will feel this divine love or energy now coursing through your body because your DNA has linked with the planet, has linked with the stars, has linked with the manifest environment. Thus, it becomes reality. You have anchored your desire and your intention into a manifest channel, shall we say, of existing reality. And as you do that, then you can turn to the human collective, and your insight will grow. And everything you get, the information you get, this is already happening to you with the divine lover. It's giving you a whole new dimension of understanding. But if you can anchor the divine lover into these basic dynamics of planet, sun, moon, stars, it's not idolatry. I think it's the same thing as seeing the divine lover in another person, and more so. You will get a response, and that response will be individualized according to the manifest, what you're addressing. And they have things to tell you. It may not be with words, and it may not seem like somebody's talking to you, but it will come through symbols, through dreams, through impulses, and all your questions can be answered. Synchronicities, exactly. And it will make sense, and it will be more regular than before because you will have a manifest harmony. They cannot touch you there. They can try, and you will feel the pressure of the tribulation of their constant intent. And when I say they, I mean anybody who wants to latch on to control, who is against the organic nature of reality, against the natural expression of a livingness, and for the sake of wanting to, because they fear it. There are many reasons: previous trauma, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, they say, well, it's better to be a creator of corpses than be subject to a living reality. But nobody is subject. It's like better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Nobody is subject. They've completely misunderstood it because they rejected a part of them they thought was the cause of their original pain. It's like saying it's love's fault. Because, for example, if you embrace something that hurts you because you believe love has to embrace everything, and you get in trouble, then you can blame love and say, I will never love again. I will never touch this love thing, and forget it. And from there on, you mutate into a whole other psychopathic thing. So, these are things we're going to have to confront, but they may be too difficult to confront without the support of the cosmos itself. Not civilizations, not anthropomorphic projections of, the same old, but the very bottom line that's around us, the planets, the stars, the cosmic flows, space-time itself, and more importantly, the earth under our feet. Everything we need is here, and it can help us intuitively, and then we start going down a path that may not make sense in terms of who we thought we were before. It doesn't matter. That's what I mean. Well, pretend you're a child and you're discovering something really cool and you're moving on a new adventure. It may not be a game, but you could move through it in the sense that, children always ask questions. And so asking questions is a good thing if you ask them with feeling and your answers are done with feeling. And these neural connections will start developing and things will become much, much clearer. This is a gradual alchemy, but along the way, the vibration that occurs is that you are establishing yourself as a pillar rooted in the earth, moving to the heavens, and this pillar is an attractor of a certain vibration that is collectively felt, because everybody, even if they want to be in control, they also want security, even no matter who they are, whether they're, so-called movers and shakers or whatever. They want to kill most people because that is their perverted sense of security, among other things. Um, so, well, I'll be in control. Now, nothing can happen to me. Get rid of all of these. But the thing is, so you can resonate the most deepest, most guaranteed sense of security there is. One that we don't believe in because nature has been evolving and has had its ups and downs, and the law of the jungle and all of these things in order for biology to get to this point. But we are here in order to smooth it all out, and we can, because we are here to prove that nature was always right. You don't have to abandon nature. I don't mean going back to the jungle and whatever. I mean abandon the organic essence of our being. The physical body is a precipitation of our true essence. It is not separate from it. When you precipitate water and it becomes ice, it's still H2O. So when we look at our bodies, maybe it's, oh, this dense thing, it's perishable. Well, no, it's not perishable. The form it changes goes back into the earth. The earth is connected with us. It's still connected in a nonlinear manner to our soul, to the soul that we are, to the being that we are. But the being that we are isn't just the soul. It wants to extend. It wants to become denser. It wants to eventually immortalize the physical body at some point and do it in a natural way without impinging on the environment. Many changes will need to happen for that to occur. But the whole thing is that a trust, you mentioned faith before. This trust is going to essentially come into being naturally with the connections that I've recommended. I don't want to go over too long. I think this has been a long talk already, hasn't it?
Oh, I looked back because I noticed these candles were brand new candles, and look at how short one is compared to the other, because it's dumping all of its wax down the side. And I noticed that in the image, and I thought, oh, what's going on back there?
It's only 25 minutes anyways.
We started, I think, somewhere around 7:43.
Well, then let me add a few more things. I wanted to talk about, so this is something people can actually, it's not an elaborate metaphysical exercise or anything like that. It's very easy. Just the opening, you've done it through prayer. You do it through Ho'oponopono. But at this point, you can just do it through moving your awareness and feeling the earth as a warm, loving being, and et cetera, et cetera. The same thing with the cosmos. People have instincts for this. Ancient peoples did it. Nobody taught them how to do it. Now, I'd like to get into something a little more on a different track, very briefly, the numerology thing that we had talked about before. Alchemists, European alchemists, have a symbol that they say is the key of all alchemy. And this is basically a series of geometric shapes. There's a dot, there's a circle. Outside of the circle is a triangle. Outside of the triangle is a square, and around the square is another circle. And combined with a dot, these are 5 shapes. Alchemy is the mastery of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 5 is the quintessence, essentially, of the condensation of all those numbers. So the dot is the number 1. But actually it's 0 because the dot is in potential. But a circle is a realized number 1, a creative number 1. The number 2 is the polar opposite of the circle. It's manifestation. It's the essence where everything else comes from it. And then the other circle contains everything else. So it's almost like you have 2 circles, the womb on the outside and then the internal source on the inside. And we're in between. We're like the electric field between 2 capacitor plates, dynamic. The polarities are between us. They're constantly moving like 2 battery channels, and there are currents of light flowing through continuously. So the triangle is the first emergence. They call it the parts of the soul in the body, but the triangle represents the doorway of action. It means our initiative. The 4 directions, the square represents the response to action, the effect to our cause. It's represented by the tent flap or the vagina that, responds to the phallus moving in. And then the 5 represents, well, when you combine action and reaction, you have a constant dynamic of feedback, and feedback, when you start from essence again, like I said, if it's an arbitrary, empty thing, then you have a necromantic result, a corporation or a corpse moving. But now you have life. So as you said, if you feel your life, now the thing is, when life is able to sexually reproduce, when beyond the polarity level, when life is able to go into ecstasy and maintain balance and experience beauty and create beauty, then you have the number 6. It's a form of, you might say it's an avatar. It's the beginning of an avatar, because what's going on here is that, well, your wholeness at a very fundamental level. I mean, it never ends. You constantly become whole. But at a fundamental level of integrity, you have it's up to the mastery of the number 5, 555. But beyond that, you move into a level of what are you going to do with that? What are you going to create with that? So if you're not whole and you start creating things that are fragmented, then you end up with the 666 beast thing.
Right.
The sexual guilt that you mentioned also is, oh, my creations are not, I'm interacting to create. But then you see, when you come into a sexual dynamic and you experience a reflection of your own fragmentation, one of the symptoms is guilt. Guilt, shame, fear, this is facing our own fragmentation. We're facing our inner separation, and it feels ugly to us. It feels terrible. And self-rejection is a trauma. And thus rejecting that, while we're trying to avoid the pain or the undesirable situation, we end up throwing ourselves out as well. So the experience of rejecting yourself is the experience of feeling shame, the experience of being rejected. Nobody likes being rejected. But the ultimate foundation for that is self-rejection. If you don't have self-rejection, you won't be, But the thing is that numbers can be conveyed in triads. The first 3 numbers represent a foundation dynamic. The second 3 numbers, you enter a relationship dynamic of 4, 5, and 6. We've talked all the way up to the 6. But the thing is, the real craziness starts if you're moving through fragmentation and you haven't resolved the beast challenge. Then you move into 7, 8, and 9, and there you have the anti-magus, the sorcerer, shall we say, the antichrist, which is 888, and then the anti-god, which is the destroyer, the anti-creator, the 999. And you can use it, if you start from 666 and you want to move to the next numbers, you can't create a gap and then pretend it's all okay. If the 6 is afflicted, then the previous numbers are afflicted, and the numbers following are also afflicted. So you have the Illuminati, as I said, aggrandizing the number 777 because it gives them scientific magical power, and they're trying to become antichrists. They've created the story of the antichrist, or elaborated upon it, in order to make us focus on a probability where they are the ones that embody that ideal. They want to be antichrist, they want to be anti-gods after that. And 888 is Christic not because it represents unity, but because it represents definition. In the Hebrew alphabet, the number 8 represents the skin, a dividing line, a fence, and basically it represents the delineation of manifestation of, Number 7 represents the ability to tell things apart and to choose. Number 8 represents the ability to set boundaries and define any given thing out of a general field of potential. So what in Christianity, Christ is the interface or the skin between God and creation. It's basically the dividing line between what we know as transcendent and what we know as manifest. It's the intermediary, so the skin is porous. To be able to embody that position, whereas the Antichrist is an abyss. It's a dividing line of separation. And this is where they want to go because they want to collapse it because they hate it and they hate themselves. And eventually, even if you agree with them and their ideals on some level, it's like, well, it's all meaningless. That's what they want to do. They're like little children who are pissed off and want to trash everything so they can say, well, it was meaningless. And all these stories about the devil revolting against God, and saying, it's like a little spoiled child, that not a spoiled child, but a hurt child that wants to get attention. And that will trash everything and say, look, it's all meaningless. But that's the ultimate, then the devil puts itself into hell. There is no room. It won't even be enough for oblivion to take place. They want eternal suffering in order to keep that point going, because oblivion is inconceivable. But it doesn't matter. The point is that we are moving, having realized the 555 is a major thing, because we're not caught up in the matrix. We're not caught up in the story of the beast, and after the beast comes the Antichrist, and after the Antichrist comes all these other things in hell. Stop it at the 5, master the 5, master your energies, gain allies in the earth and the stars and everything around you, and then move to establish this sense of relationship with the collective and the individual and yourself, and you will notice a great, great difference. That's what I wanted to say today.
Thank you. I'm glad you added that part, because that ties in with so many of the other things that we've been talking about and working on. So I really appreciate it. And thank you once again for another more food for thought, another interesting.
Yes.
Thank you, Aristo, and namaste.
Namaste.
All right. We're going to